Hi guys, my name is Matti Sulanto. Welcome to another video. This time I have with me the 7Artisans 50mm f1.8 autofocus lens. And this is not just any autofocus lens. This lens bears some significance because it's 7Artisans' very first autofocus lens. And I'm very curious to see how it performs for my photography. And here's the usual disclaimer. This is a review sample from 7Artisans. However, after I had done all my test pictures and shot my video commentary regarding this lens, I got a message from 7Artisans telling me that this is not a production lens. This is some sort of a pre-production unit. So bear that in mind when you watch this video, because some things I'm going to say later in this video may not apply to the final production lens. Right now I don't know the exact release date, but it should be soon. This will be available for the Sony E-mount, and I'm not sure if this will be available for other mounts, but I suspect they will make it also available for other mounts, like at least for Nikon Z mount and maybe some other mounts too. The build quality feels very good in my opinion. It's all metal construction, no excessive free play anywhere, and I don't know what more to say. Feels very good, like a premium lens when it comes to the exterior design or exterior build quality. I would not call this a compact lens, but I would not call this a super large and heavy lens either. It's about the same size as all other similar 50mm f1.8 autofocus lenses. This weighs in at about 421 grams and the filter thread is 62 millimeters. Feature set is pretty good. There is an aperture ring which is smooth, no clicks, unfortunately, for photography at least, and there is no like a switch or anything to choose between clicks and no clicks. Then there is an autofocus, manual focus switch, and of course a manual focus ring. The autofocus manual focus switch is almost like a clickless tool, which is unfortunate because it's very easy to accidentally put it on the manual focus option, and that happened to me several times while I was shooting my test pictures, and I was wondering what is going on because the camera would not focus. But then I realized that the switch was in the wrong position. If this was my lens, I would probably glue the switch permanently to the autofocus position, so I wouldn't accidentally turn on manual focus. Besides, I can always turn on manual focus from the camera menu, and at least with this combo, the autofocus seems to work so reliably that I very seldom would need manual focus anyway. Talking about manual focus, the focus ring is quite stiff to turn, which can be good or it can be bad. It's good in a sense that if you're using manual focus, it's not easy to accidentally turn the ring, but it's bad in those situations where you need to quickly move the focus distance. One interesting detail regarding the aperture ring, f16 is the highest f number on this lens. However, this aperture scale goes beyond f16, but there are no aperture values beyond that, only the A position, which allows you to control the aperture from the camera if you wish to do that. And this is not weather sealed, so if you shoot a lot in extreme conditions like in rain, humid conditions or something similar, you may want to consider another lens. Based on the type of photography that I like to do, I think this lens is quite a solid optical performer. But please do also check out another review or two if possible, because that other reviewer may like to shoot other subjects, or that other reviewer may have another shooting style, and therefore that other photographer reviewer may also have another type of opinion on this product. My pictures turned out sharp and contrasty. I did not see any distortions, and also the backlight performance seemed quite decent to me. I can see some vignetting in my pictures, but to me that's almost like an upside, because I usually like to add vignetting to my pictures, and if I find it distracting, it's relatively easy to remove in post if necessary. I just said the backlight performance is quite decent, and it is, but in certain situations I can see a pretty nasty looking flare. However, it's not as bad as it looks, because it only happens when the light is hitting the front element at a certain very narrow angle. So if I move or turn my camera just a little bit, the flare goes away. And as soon as I saw the flare, it looked strangely familiar. And what do you know, when I go back to my archives, I can see that the 7Artisans 35mm f2 Leica M mount lens creates very similar looking flare in certain situations. So maybe it's the lens coatings they use or something, I don't know, pretty interesting nonetheless. However, the lateral chromatic aberrations are a bit on the high side to my taste. They are pretty easy to remove, at least in Lightroom, by checking the remove chromatic aberrations box, but I'd still like to see a little bit better performance straight from the lens. The longitudinal chromatic aberrations instead are moderate, and that's good news because they are much harder to remove than lateral chromatic aberrations. You can see them, the loci, in your pictures if you shoot wide open and against some contrasty background, but it's still not too distracting, and I wouldn't say this lens is any worse than another similar lens in that regard. Autofocus seems pretty snappy and reliable for photography. It's not quite up to the very best. For example, my Sony 50mm f2.5 G series lens can focus faster than this, but then again, it's a lot more expensive lens. The autofocus on this lens never held me back, and I was able to get sharp pictures in every situation I encountered. And here is a short video autofocus test clip. It looks like this lens can follow or track me pretty well in this clip. I'm using the same autofocus settings that I always use with all my lenses when I'm making my YouTube videos. The focus breathing is also quite well under control. It's moderate and probably not distracting if you choose to use this for video. The minimum focusing distance is 0.5 meters, which is quite normal for a lens like this. Nothing outstanding, nothing special, but it still makes it possible to capture some tight close-ups if necessary. I'm very happy with the pictures that I got on this lens. I have nothing major to complain about the image quality. I think the major downside with this lens is that it doesn't stand out. There are already many other products, very similar products that look and feel the same, and the image quality is very much the same. This is certainly much better than the outdated Sony 50mm f1.8 lens, but for example the Viltrox 50mm f1.8 or the Yongnuo 50mm f1.8, they are very similar to this. They look similar and they feel similar, and the image quality is very similar to this. But please do not misunderstand me. This is a very nice 50mm lens, and if you are looking for a 50mm f1.8 autofocus lens for your Sony full-frame camera, this lens is definitely worth a look. Unfortunately, when I'm recording this video, I don't know the price of this lens, but I suspect it's going to be comparable to the competition like the Viltrox or the Yongnuo that I just mentioned. This is all I have for you in this video. If you found this video useful or helpful, please do consider buying me a cup of coffee. There's a link down below for that if you don't live in Finland. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next one.